Hi, this is Nate Sorrello and you're watching Photolearningism. Thanks for joining in. Tonight we have a really exciting show and I hope you're able to participate and give some feedback along the way as we go. We're going to be talking about the 4 tips I have found thus far on balancing content creation and family life. It's a subject that's become kind of clear that it's important. The longer you do this sort of thing, the more you realize that there are kind of key stops along the way where you need to balance things out. So I thought that could be a really helpful topic to bring up tonight and look for your feedback and see if it maybe helps you, and invite your feedback to see what's helped you in your journey of content creation and working in photography, and seeing if we can help each other in our community that we're working to build here. So let's get started and see where it takes us tonight. Okay, so point number 1 is that you want to get your content creation, or the thing that you're trying to accomplish for this goal, this side hustle, this project of getting content out there, always get that done first. For a lot of us, that looks like first thing in the morning, when you get up early, when the sun comes around. Always try to squeeze that in before you kick into your workday, because if you don't, the workday starts to take off, family life starts to take off as it should, and this just kind of gets left behind, and you're left with this impression that you're never going to get to it. And actually that's true. You need to be purposeful about injecting a little bit of time, and we're not talking hours here. Use the 25-minute rule. It's a really good tip I read, that if you can try to accomplish at least 25 meaningful minutes on your project first thing, that is sufficient to make good progress throughout the course of a week. And I've seen evidence of that, just putting that into practice myself. So for a lot of us, again, that are working during the day, that's getting up at 4, getting up at 5 a.m., which is really dark right now on the eastern side in the United States, putting in that little bit of time, getting something accomplished, and that really kind of boosts you up before you get going, before you step into the other busyness of the day, and before you step into getting kids ready for school, before you start getting into ironing your shirt, getting in the car, doing those kinds of things. That is an important piece of getting yourself moving forward on your side hustle, on your goal. So also along that point of things is you should have an accountability partner along the way. Somebody who's willing to make sure that you're getting up and you're starting and that you're doing that work every day, because sometimes we just need a little bit of support. It's kind of like when you go to the gym. It's always better when you bring a buddy, so you don't just shrug it off every day and say, it's not that important, I'll just do it tomorrow. Find somebody, and preferably somebody who is not your spouse, because that's not the role they should be playing in this. Find somebody, a close friend, somebody who is willing to meet up with you and just make sure that you're doing stuff. And there's tons of people out there who are trying to do exactly what you're trying to do here, to do something incredible with the time that you have. They call them actually 5 a.m. groups. You can look Facebook for groups like that. On the other social platforms, there's literally hundreds of people you can plug into who are willing just to check in on you and just make sure that you're keeping true to your goals, because this is really, it's your goal, it's not theirs. But again, we're all in the process of trying to get something done. So get an accountability partner, and don't put that on your spouse, because that's not the role. We'll talk more about that along the other points. So get it done early. As I mentioned, a lot of us, that's early in the morning. I recognize that there are some third shift folks out there who are just as idealistic, and I hope you are, because if you have big dreams, don't let that time frame of what you work crush you. Still keep the principle of do it first, though. If you're going to be working 9 p.m. to 5 a.m., then start your work at 8 p.m. Try to get in a little bit of time. Try to get in at least 25 minutes of meaningful work before you got to head out. And keep progressing. Keep making small steps, because it's about the forward progression. It's not so much that you're going to make big leaps and bounds, but you're going to make small steps. You eat an elephant one bite at a time. That's point number one. Point number two is you want to set limits such that this doesn't consume you. And it's kind of similar to point one, but I want to emphasize that this is something that you accomplish in small steps. You want to manage your time. You want to put it into your purposeful plan of the day. And I know that sounds exhausting, but really, if you want to succeed, this is where it has to come from. You got to do the time of figuring out where it's going to fit in. And again, the best time for that, I would say, is first thing. If you're a daytime worker, do it in the morning. If you're a through the night worker, do it in the evening before you start. You have to be purposeful and intentional about doing this. But at the same time, set limits. Don't make it where every waking moment, every spare moment is about your side hustle, is about your dream, is about your goal. Because then it consumes you, it burns you out. Especially if you have a family, it's frustrating for your spouse, it's frustrating for your kids, because they want to see you. Really? Because, you're a parent, and you're married, and that would be the responsible thing to do, is to maintain both those things. You have relationships, you have social connections that you should stay connected to as well, friends, family. Don't neglect all of those things. All right? So set limits, be intentional about the time you're going to spend at this, and if you happen to be on a breakaway point, I'm not going to say, don't use that momentum every now and then, but don't let it consume and take away from your planned family time, from your planned time with your spouse, with your kids, with your other social connections, because you got to take care of you, okay? Your goal is great, and I realize that comes from your dreams, but as much as it can build you up, it can also destroy you if you let it. Point number three is being flexible. All right. While we do our best to plan and to manage and to set aside the times at very specific pieces of things, that's not always going to happen the way we want it. Things happen. Kids get sick. Spouses get sick. Job calls you in the middle of the night. Emergencies happen. The house starts on fire. This kind of stuff. Things you can't expect. Things that you can't anticipate. Things that are going to creep in. You got to learn to expect it's going to happen. Now, I'm not saying don't make a plan. Make a plan. Do your best to keep to it. But at the same time, don't be discouraged when you hit a day or two or a week or three where something's going to come and blow that out of the water and upset that, okay? Take it in stride. Next day, pick it back up again. Keep going. Again, be intentional about the steps you can take, but at the same time, be aware that life is going to happen. You're going to get sick. You're going to be incapacitated. Okay? Be flexible and be ready for it. Point number 4. And we've kind of centered a lot of this around family, interestingly enough. Didn't intend that, but that's a lot of this where this is going. Coming at this from my personal place in life, I'm married. I have 5 children, and I have a very busy house. That's why I'm streaming here at 9 p.m. Eastern. That's why I get a lot of my work done in the early morning before really anything starts to happen in my house. At the same time, I have to be very careful that while I have these big dreams of what I'm trying to accomplish, of streaming for all of you, my beloved audience who comes and watches, I appreciate you. While I have big goals of photography and taking that places and showing off the art and connecting with people and building a community and doing all those things which are fun and great, I have to be careful because I have a family and I have a day job, which one day, God willing, I hope to be doing what I'm doing right now full time, but that's not the case right now. These are small steps to get to that point. I have to be responsible about the other things that I have committed to, and I have to follow through on those. And I talked to my wife about this. This is not just me talking, because I don't want to paint the impression that I've just come up with this wisdom all by myself. I did discuss these with my wife, and she made a very interesting point that I wanted to bring up to you, in that harking back to that first point we talked about, your accountability part, of how that should not be the role your spouse plays. Your husband, your wife, they don't want to be your business partner in this. And maybe that sounds harsh, but they want to be your encourager. They want to be your cheerleader. They don't want to drive your business. Remember, this is your dream. This is your goal. That's great. We should have dreams. We should have big things that we aspire to accomplish in life. We're made to be dreamers. We're made to conquer great challenges. Your spouse is not going to be the one who's in the trenches with you. Your spouse will be the one who is telling you, you can do this, you got this, I'll feed you cookies, but you shouldn't expect them to be carrying the business, because that's what this really is, the goal for you, all right? That's the role that your spouse plays in all this, and it's an important one, because if we don't have somebody close to us, if you're not married, if you don't have close family with you, you need somebody who's going to fulfill that for you. Somebody who's going to tell you, you know what, I watched your video, it was awesome, or be honest with you as well. Hey, I saw your video and you need to make more eye contact. You need to pause for effect. You need to speak clearer, those type of things. Somebody who's going to make you realize how to be better and to do better, but is not going to be the driver of the goal. That's your job. That is your purpose, and only you have the vision of it. So that's not something you can put on your spouse. That's not something you can put on that encourager. All right? So if you're married, put importance on your marriage. If you have kids, put importance on your kids, and keep that in sight. Keep your goals in mind, write them down, make a plan of how you're going to do this, but don't neglect your family. It's so important. So a good way to do that, because I don't just want to say don't do it and do this and without giving you some means of managing that, is while the spouse is the encourager, you can find ways to include them in the goal, in the role of an influencer, a contributor. My area is going to be photography, and that spans in a whole lot of areas of DIY, of taking pictures, of editing pictures. If you've had the opportunity to see some of my earlier videos on YouTube, I did a couple of projects with my children. We built stuff, we commented on photo editing together, and it's a lot of fun. It's extra work, I'll warn you, but it's a way of including your family such that you can still get through your vision, you can still get to your goal, and you can include the members of your family so that you're not sidelining them along the way. They can be active participants in what you're trying to do. And that shifts a lot of the burden of, again, you're not making them the business partner, you're not making them to carry anything other than be a participant. You still do all the planning, you're the host of everything, but my kids really love that. I had some ideas for working on photography projects with my wife because she's a very talented writer. So I wanted to do kind of a mix of poetry and doing work with my photos. So those are the kinds of things you're going to look for and should look for including your family. And again, this is not the activity that you should expect to do all the time with your family. Go outside once in a while, see the sun, go on walks, still do your family activities outside of this dream. But it can be something where your whole family can find a piece of it and embrace it without becoming a burden to it or becoming a distraction for you, without you becoming a distraction to them. It's a nice mix, and you can all have a good time with it and still take steps forward. All right, so those are the 4 things. Just to recap on all of those, in case you're just joining, it is to not to neglect your family, to get it done early, get it done first, to set limits on the amount of time you're going to spend on it, to be flexible, and to involve your family. And those are the 4 points that I've really found value in for starting off this journey of content creation and making sure that you maintain the peace. So some tools that can help, because I've given some wisdom from what I've learned. I've given some insight. I also want to give you some tools that can help you with some of these pieces, with managing the time, with taking notes that if you have a great idea, you can write it down, come back to it. And a lot of these things are also mobile ready as well, which is also an important thing. So you can do this taking into account, you shouldn't be doing this everywhere you go, but things you can use to take notes. So let me hop screens here. Okay, so I brought these up before. There's a video out there I did, I think there's a card I put up at the start of the stream for Hootsuite. That's this right here. I can refresh these because these I think have fired, I hope. But in any case, it's a fantastic tool where you can get some of your work done ahead of time. You can pre-schedule your posts to your social platforms. You can monitor your posts to social platforms. You can get a lot of stuff queued up through this tool, tapping into a lot of different platforms. You can maximize your time and set it so that things can go off later in the day, later in the night, when your audience is expecting it, without you actually having to spend the time, which could be inconvenient for things you plan for family. So Hootsuite is a fantastic tool for that. Trello is a really good note-taking tool. They break it down into boards and they break it down into cards from there. I'll do an in-depth video on that another time because it's just such a fantastic tool. I don't want to take up all the time in this video doing that. Here's kind of a quick look of how I've broken things down. That kind of scrolls all the way over. This is all interactive where you can drag things around. You can drag your columns around. It's really easy, really intuitive, and it taps into a lot of different sources. That I would highly recommend as a way of just keeping track of your ideas, and you can expand on them later and do that. Another tool for taking notes, which I use for different things, but it's called MEMO NOTEPAD. And in case you're trying to take notes, I'll put links to all of these in the chat, and it's in the video description if you're following on YouTube, just in case you want to go look at these later, so don't worry about that. So MEMO NOTEPAD, it is a Google Chrome extension. I don't know of any other browser extension right now. It is a mobile app as well, so you can put it on from your phone. You can get it from within Chrome, obviously. Either way. So it synchronizes and does a lot of things, and I haven't found a limit on how long it can go. You can see I've been running this for a long time, but I found it to be a really easy tool for just taking basic notes to make sure I don't lose track of what I was trying to get to, or if I want to come back to something. It's another way you can keep up with your ideas. You can do it from both your computer and your phone, same as Trello, same as Hootsuite, and keep yourself moving forward and maximize your time. Another really effective tool is, see if I can get it up quick, is IFTTT, which stands for If This Then That. They put together these things called recipes where you can automate a lot of your interaction. This can really play nicely with Hootsuite if you're going to pre-schedule things. This is reactive in that when something happens, it triggers other responses to really, I'm going to say, infinite number of platforms. There have got to be thousands of different connections. They all do different things. Check it out. I'll do a video on this later as well, just to kind of get people up and running if that's necessary. And again, automate and use those meaningful 25 minutes to the best of your ability, so you can maximize on the really core critical stuff. So that's that. I truly hope that is helpful. Let me follow through on my promise to you to get those links in there before the end of the show, because I did have those staged up. Here we go. So I'm going to throw Trello out there first. And again, I am not an affiliate of these tools. I am recommending these because they are just that useful, and I think it's worthwhile recommending them. So use them to your own purpose, knowing that I am not making anything out of this other than trying to be helpful and encourage you on your way through. With the Hootsuite link, I'm also putting a link to my video on there in case that helps you out, get you started. Be aware that my microphone was off for the first minute or so, so if you see me lip syncing to something, you can sing a song and pretend I'm doing something if that kind of entertains you for a moment, and then I do kick in after I realize my mistake, so I apologize about that. The good content is in there, just skip ahead. Alrighty, so thanks again for joining. I am kind of curious about something. If you would prefer to see some other videos going back to photo edits, which I'd kind of like to do at some point because that was fun when we got to collaborate in some projects, let me know if you'd like to see more of that or a lot more of that, or if these kind of how-to videos are helpful, because I did want to include the learning experience for all of our benefit, and I'd be curious on your feedback. Leave me a comment on any of the platforms on YouTube. Connect with me on nateserrallo.com. The link is down there in the video below here. And then use that to platform out to all the other social platforms. Facebook, Instagram, come follow me. YouTube, come subscribe, watch the videos. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know if this has been helpful or if there's something I could expound on further. I'd be very pleased to do that. And that, I think, is that. Thank you so much for joining. And we'll see you on the next video. Oh, I almost forgot. We have been talking about the design, the gear rack. So I just wanted to let you know, if you can see, I did start doing out some basic math. I don't know if you can kind of see there. This is kind of the original drawing, and I know this looks like some feminine undergarments here. Those are actually two different camera bags. Yeah, the resemblance was not intentional. Oh well, what are you going to do at this point, right? But I think I figured out that I can narrow this down to 2 different sheets of plywood to make this work. I wanted you to know, if you watch that video, you can check that out on YouTube. If you watch the original design video, that there is progress happening. It is slow because, again, I'm doing my small steps as I recommended to you. I'm holding myself to that as well while I'm keeping up with this. So go have a look. Connect with me, as I said, and have a great night. Thank you so much for joining. Take care. Go do something awesome, but keep it in check.